away to Angley. Shots coolly beyond Kasper Schmeichel for his 9th goal of the season. Leicester equalised after 25 minutes. James Maddison, corner from the right. A glancing header from Jamie Vardy. We thought he had made it 9 successive games with a goal, but the touch from Tim Krul ultimately has taken the goal away from Leicester City's number 9. It's an own goal by Krul, and that was the end of the scoring at the end of the first half. Leicester toiled in the second half, but ultimately were left frustrated. However, they are still second in the Premier League table and still on a brilliant unbeaten run. Matt Elliott alongside us throughout this afternoon. Frustration, is that the key word, Matt, to sum up this afternoon's game?
Yeah, I think so, but also you have to give a little bit of credit, or a lot of credit, to the visitors. It doesn't always go smoothly, or it doesn't always go to plan. You don't play at your best collectively, but part of the reason for that is the performance of Norwich City, and well done to them. They came here with an energy themselves. They came with not a game plan, but an intention to go and play their part in the game, and a very good game it was as well. There weren't a hatful of chances at either end, but I think just about, just desserts really for both teams. Leicester had the dominance in terms of possession and chances created, shots at goal, corners, etc. But the larger context of things, I think Norwich deserves a hell of a lot of credit and just about the right result. Tinge of disappointment and frustration, yes, of course, because you expect Leicester to be rampant every week the way that results have been. But a dose of reality possibly might be a good thing. Might not certainly be a negative thing with the games coming up against Man City and Liverpool, which will be a different proposition. But Norwich are absolutely delighted with that result, and that will set them in good stead because they know what a good team Leicester are, but it just didn't quite click today for the Blues.
James Maddison applauding the fans that used to sing his name over in that far corner as he heads off to the field. Last game before Christmas, of course, for the Foxes, and able to supply an early Christmas present. Matt, one last job for you, of course, is your man of the match from the Leicester side this afternoon.
Oh, right, on the hop. Wilfred Ndidi. Okay, how's that sound?
There we go, we'll go with that.
Yeah? It was one of those games that no one really stood out today in showing flamboyance and creativity. Lots of huff and puff and effort, but Ndidi was probably as good as anyone would say.
It ends 1-1 at King Power Stadium. Things set up brilliantly for the game next weekend at Etihad Stadium when Leicester travel to play Manchester City. Plenty more to come on LCFC Radio. We'll hear from some of the players. We'll hear from Brendan Rodgers. We'll hear more from Matt here in the stadium. Likewise, Nev and Steve Guppy back in the studio. Let's find out what else has gone on around the Premier League and the Football Leagues this afternoon with Lewis in the studio.
Thanks, John. Yes, the early game was at Anfield today. It was Liverpool 2, Watford 0. Mo Salah with a brace for Liverpool in that one. It's finished Burnley 1, Newcastle 0 at Turf Moor. Wood with the goal there in the second half. It was Chelsea 0, Bournemouth 1 at Stamford Bridge. Dan Gosling with a late winner for Bournemouth. It was Sheffield United 0, Aston Villa 0 in the battle between the two teams, obviously newly promoted to the Premier League. Sheffield United 2, Aston Villa 0. Fleck with a brace for Sheffield United in that one. And of course at King Power Stadium, Leicester 1, Norwich City 1. We'll have Matt Elliott back in the studio with us very shortly. But first, the thoughts of Steve Guppy and Nev Folger. Steve, first to you. Not much changed really from half-time.
No, I think just to echo, Matty's thoughts really. Sometimes you have to hold your hand up and go, the visiting team, they did a good job. There's always a lot of talk these days about systems and those sort of shape and what have you. But football, it's not always a difficult game, and then sometimes you just got to win your personal battles. And you win your personal battles, then things grow from that. And you have to say this Leicester team, in recent seasons, they've done that. Today it didn't happen. And you're going to get games like that, and this is one of those games. I don't think, there was a couple of changes of system, this, that, and the other. Ultimately, you have to say that the Norwich players, too many Norwich players, won their personal battles against the Leicester players on this day. We weren't expecting it. We were hoping it wasn't going to happen, but they didn't lose. They dug in. albeit, Pookie had some great chances second half. It's just a lack of pace, maybe we spoke about, that stopped him from, scoring another goal. But they did well, Norwich. And just today, Leicester were a little bit under the weather.
Yeah, Mickey says, heads up, boys, still 1 point. And lots of people getting in touch saying, just wasn't the day today. Ben says, we should be winning games like this. We've got to remember Leicester still on this unbeaten run, which is, when you watch the pictures after the game there, Nev, and the players, you can just see the look of frustration, the look of disappointment on their face, because they have set such a high level.
Yeah, they've set the bar very high, and you have to say today they probably didn't reach the level that they've been playing at. Probably that's the disappointment, that I think the build up to the game, you're thinking, Norwich down in that, the bottom three, Leicester up there second. How many are Leicester going to score? It was almost that sort of feeling among fans and everything in the build up.
Complacency.
Well, I don't think Leicester themselves would be complacent, but I think amongst the media, the fans, everything else. If you were going to decide a result today, you'd have said a home win, wouldn't you, on form and everything else? But credit, as Steve said, as Matt said, credit to Norwich. They did a job. It wasn't the greatest game that you're ever going to see. I thought there were, some exciting moments in it, but it wasn't, a free-flowing game. But I thought Norwich, as an away side, had a lot of possession that, at times, did a good job on Leicester, and they could have nicked the game, but so could have, Leicester as well. So at the end of it all, I suppose a draw was about the right result. For Leicester, a disappointing draw. For Norwich, they'll be delighted.
Yeah, Mark and Pete have been in touch saying you can't win them all. And Carol just says, come on, there was always going to be a game like this. And actually, you were saying that during the game, Stephen. You also said, now that I've retired, you forget there are games like this where it's not all singing, all dancing.
You do. The sun wasn't shining, was it, today?
No.
Maybe in the final third today, Leicester looked a little bit toothless. And the odd occasion when things did open up, the cross was on, didn't seem to be enough players in the box. Obviously you're relying heavily on Jamie Vardy, as any team would be who's got him in there. But, maybe you just needed that midfielder. You needed Tillemans, Maddison, Gray, obviously, in second half, and Barnes needed to be in the box, sniffing around for crosses. The moment you get 3 or 4 players in the box for crosses, things start to happen. But they seem to be Vardy in there, no one really, the rest of them were on the edge of the box. That extra few yards, that change of pace in the final third when you're attacking crosses, just wasn't quite there today.
Yeah, Joe says disappointed, but still a point when not playing so well. Brian says that was a bit sobering. Well done, Norwich. If anyone was to give us a jolt, I'm glad it was Norwich. Actually, words them. They were class on the field, weren't they? They played some good football. They actually really brought the game to Leicester, didn't just chuck a load of men behind the ball, and also their fans were excellent.
Sorry, go on, Nev.
The fans were. I mean, a big following, wasn't it? When you looked at that away end, I mean, all credit to the Norwich fans. They enjoyed themselves. They enjoyed watching their side. I mean, they've had some difficult weeks in this season. It's going to be a battle for them, to stay up. But if they play like they did today, you think, well, they're gonna get out of trouble somehow. Perhaps they're a bit open. They get perhaps caught on the counter, and I think Leicester at full throttle, and the way that if they've been playing in the recent weeks, if they'd continue with that sort of performance, I think they'd have won today. I just think Leicester were, by their standards, below par.
Yeah, I think that's the general feeling from fans getting in touch as well. Let's take it back to one of the key flashpoints in that first half. Obviously, Timo Pukki putting Norwich ahead. Obviously, we've praised the Leicester backline a lot this season. Was that one where they just got breached somewhat? Yeah,
it happened 2 or 3 times, you have to say, in the game. I mean, Pukki, I watched him a lot last year in the Championship, and his movement off the ball is first rate. Maybe the one thing that stops him from being a top striker. And listen, he's doing great for his internationally and for Norwich. He's an absolute legend. But that next level is his lack of pace. Just that yard of pace to make him a top forward. But the movement was there, and I have to say, Leicester struggled to deal with him, first half and second half. So that when the goal came, he had that. He just for once had that little yard where the Archer couldn't get back at him, and he just steadied himself. The things that we've been praising Jamie Vardy in recent weeks, when he gets in on goal, just that one touch to steady himself. And I said to you, this is going in the back of the net, and sure enough, I have to say it was a very good finish.
Yeah, I think if the stats I've got up here are correct, 9 goals for the season for Pukki, and he gave Leicester's defenders one of the biggest tests they might have had this season so far.
Yeah, he certainly did, didn't he? I think, for the reasons that Steve just mentioned there, and different type of tests as well, really, because there's some centre forwards are there that rely on pure pace, or it might be the physical aspects of the game, a link-up play or whatever. But I think Pukki's movement's as good as any. I think, but as Steve says there, if he did have that extra yard or two, then you're really talking, aren't you? And it's a good job that Soyuncu has got that yard or two, because Pukki would have probably got himself a hat-trick otherwise. But I think he's a good test, and somewhere to sort of take a reading against how the centre halves operate as well, because yardstick, that's the word I'm looking for, because Soyuncu, again, he's still learning. I mean, excellent player that he is, he's still learning about the ins and outs of the role that he's playing, and I thought he got caught out on 3 occasions, one of them being a goal. He recovered twice, but that movement from Pukki, was exceptional. And it's about your reading of the game. Pace will get you out of trouble more often than not, but when you're talking the very top levels, that Steve's alluding to there, that Pukki would be at if he had that extra yard of zip, then Soyuncu, as I'm sure he wants to, carry on improving. You need to take note of that.
Yeah, Mario's been in touch. I felt what was missing from the other games today was concentration. We never had control of the game from the start, and the quality in the last ball was not so good today. We can't argue with the result. Would you say concentration was a factor today?
Possibly. As I say, I think the week in itself, the build-up to the game, I'm not going to say that complacency's set in, but in the media and everything else, the build-up to the game was almost how many will Leicester score. It was a bit like the Liverpool game, as not Liverpool playing today. It was the same sort of thing. How many will they score? They struggled a bit today as well, Liverpool, but they got the 2-0 win that keeps them right at the top there. Leicester, it couldn't have gone worse for them in a sense, because they, for the first time for a while, they were a goal down, and then it was a case of fighting back. But they hadn't got the sharpness and the clinical edge that they've had in this terrific run of games that they've been going. And it was difficult to put your finger on it, but in a way, they played 3 different systems in the game, didn't they? They started off, with the diamond and scrapped that when Iheanacho came off. I'll be fascinated to hear Matt's viewpoint on that as well, on the substitution. I mean, I just think that Rodgers had seen enough this isn't going to work. Switched the sort of formation, switched it again in the start of the second half with another substitution. So they had 3 different formations, and I think that summed up the game, that they weren't quite sure what they should be playing against the Norwich system.
Yeah, we spoke about it at half-time, Matt, with the change of formation in the first half. We said Brendan Rodgers hasn't been scared to make choices quite quickly during the season, and that was probably his quickest one to date.
Yeah, it was ruthless for sure, wasn't it? I was looking at it thinking, I wonder if that's going through his mind. I thought we'd probably wait till, obviously going the goal behind was a factor, but I thought, and they got the equaliser, I thought maybe he'll keep it as it is and see how they go now or whatever. But ordinarily changes are at earliest halfway, at a half-time interval, aren't they? But on the odd occasion, if it's required. But it was just the whole situation with Iheanacho. he's come back in, he's done well, and then he's like, sorry, mate, you're off. Got to make a tactical switch.
Yeah, I was going to say, Matt, do you think it was tactical, or do you think it brought Iheanacho off because of what happened?
I think it was
with
primarily tactical. Yeah. There might have been an element of that. I mean, Iheanacho wasn't booked or anything, was he, in that fracas? But no, I think if he'd been booked, maybe his tempers were bubbling a bit, and maybe he thought, right, it might be a wise one to pull him off here because he might react to something that's going to come his way. But Iheanacho will probably say, well, I could play the Demarai Gray role if you want. That would be his comeback, and obviously Brendan thinks otherwise. But no, and then to do it, sort of not compound it, but confirm his train of thought by you'd say it as a positive one, really. Taking Pratt off. And then letting Barnes loose as well, and he thought, right, we're going to really go for it. So it was a positive switches. It's not done for any personal detrimental reasons, is it? It's just only tactical changes which probably were needed. Personally, I don't. I mean, the diamond system. I don't know about you. The diamond system worked superbly last week. Generally, I'm not a fan of it. I think you get quite a few.
Really cut down the width.
I think you get a lot of performances that end up a bit disjointed, like it was. Like you say, it's so congested, centre of the park. Norwich did that well with a 5 across midfield. They were solid in their own box. Diverting off to Norwich now, but I don't know. It just.
You're not a fan.
Against Villa. I didn't like it against Stoke pre-season. Against Villa, they were susceptible to that. But the centre halves, I mean, Godfrey's not going to get done for pace, 2v2, not with Iheanacho. So it was Vardy up against Zimmerman you were hoping to try and force that situation, create that situation. It didn't happen too often, once or twice. You're not going to outrun the fullbacks. They're both sharp as at the attack, aren't they? And, it was less likely to work. You had to manipulate the ball in different ways, really. But, no, fair play. He tried to change it round. Didn't quite work. One of those days. Points not such a terrible thing, is it?
Yeah, we've seen Norwich obviously beat Man City. They've had a real go against Leicester today. Obviously, Man City and Leicester known for liking to play a nice brand of football. Are they going to struggle in the actual, when it gets to the nitty-gritty fighty stuff, do you think?
Well, who knows? But one thing for sure, they certainly weren't lacking in the fighting spirit, the energy. I mean, I say, just go back to what I said earlier. We talk a lot. There's a lot of talk about systems and shape, but you break it down. You've just got to do. You've got to win your personal battles, no matter where you are. Whether you're out wide, you're in field. You've got to win your personal battles. And on this occasion, you have to say that Norwich probably won more of the personal battles than Leicester did. And as a consequence, they nearly won the game, but they didn't. Who knows how important this point could turn out to be. Because an off-colour Leicester today, which does happen, but they managed to find a way to get themselves back in the game. They didn't lose it. Okay, they didn't win it. Everyone wanted that perfect performance again. But, it just didn't quite do enough to win the game. It does happen. So let's take the point and move on.
Yeah, like Leicester, you say, they weren't at their best, but they were superior in terms of possession, shots at goal, shots on target, set pieces, etc. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're the better team or whatever. I think, but in context of the game as a whole, Norwich were, especially if you take into consideration the fact they're second from bottom and Leicester second from top, they were well deserved of the point. But it's not that horrendous. You look at the stats, you back it up. They'll probably be disappointed and think. Some supporters will probably even be asking, right, that's the title over with, and perhaps we're not the good team that we're cracked up to be, and the run's over, or whatever. But the cold light of day, they look at that performance, it wasn't quite as bad. You need to refine and brush up a few areas, but, on another day, they're more than capable of going up to Man City. On the back of that result, because it hasn't gone well today, they could still go up to Man City and not turn them over, as in run riot, but get a result up there.
I think as well, Matt. You say Leicester dominated possession, but if you gave Jamie Vardy the chances that Pukki had today, I think he takes at least 2 of them. So they had some good chances. Norwich. That was my point. I mean, listen, didn't happen.
No. You were talking about the personal battle stuff, and obviously that came off the back of the chat about systems and all that. Obviously, Graham Barnes bought into it. I know, would it be fair to say you're a bit frustrated with the maybe lack of movement and attacking flair when they came on?
Yeah, just Well, I think Barnes, you say, huffed and puffed, and he certainly was brave enough to try and take the game to Norwich. There was a couple of times he was running at the fullback trying to make things happen. Gray a little bit huffed and puffed to a point, but
Norwich fullbacks decent though, aren't they?
Yeah, it was impressive. Well, I mean, Sam Byron. I worked with him at Forest last year, and Sam he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but fair play to him. He really stuck at it. But I would have expected Gray to really have a good go at him, but maybe just lacked that little bit of confidence to really, really go for it. So, that when you add these things up, you go, well, did Leicester really do enough today? And probably the answer is no.
No.
Graham's been in touch. Was Vardy given the goal, or was it an own goal? Graham, it was an own goal for Tim Krul. So the Vardy run is over. So he'll have to just start another one, won't he?
Yeah.
Nev, in terms of Leicester's equalising goal, we've said it so many times with opposition fans kind of geeing up Jamie Vardy and really giving him some stick. They applauded James Maddison when he went over to take that corner, and that was a bad idea as well, because he put a cracking ball in. Vardy attacks it. Krul, pretty much goalkeeping mishap, wasn't it? And Leicester were back in it.
Yeah, I mean, it looked, when you first saw it, that Vardy had got the near post and it had gone in over the keeper's head or through his hands. But when you saw it on replay, the ball was never going in the net, and the goalkeeper diverted it, so it becomes an own goal. Shame for Vardy. I feel sorry for him, because he did the hard work really getting to the header. But yeah, I don't think there's much doubt that it had to be an own goal. But for me, Vardy was still, I guess, as big a threat as Leicester has had today. For me, the impressive thing with Norwich was their width as well, especially in that first half hour. Their fullbacks bomb on, and they were stretching Leicester more than they have been. But that's, as I say, when he sort of got Leicester playing with a wider, look of the side with Barnes and Gray on, it evened things out. And I thought the second half was not wildly exciting, really, but the sides almost cancelled each other out in the second half.
I tell you what did impress me, Nev, is when I was thinking before the game that Pookie, the ball up to him, he hasn't got the pace to run the channels and that, but when he did hold it up, they got players around him.
They did, very quickly.
Cantwell, Stimmerman, they were really... And then I think that's when, as the game unfolded, I was looking, there's some energy they're throwing at this. And on this occasion, Leicester couldn't quite match that.
No. In terms of, I've had a message come in about Leicester fans living in Norwich. Tim says this was the one must-win fixture of the season for us Foxes living in Norfolk. It didn't quite deliver today, Tim. However, you can still show them the table. The table still looks good. Liverpool are first, played 17, 49 points. Leicester 10 points behind them, 39 points after 17 games. Manchester City in third. They've played 16, have 32. Chelsea in fourth. They've played 17. They've got 29. And Sheffield United now up to fifth after their win today. Played 17, 25 points. It still looks good for Leicester City.
Yeah, very much so, exactly. And it was a must-not-lose game, isn't it, if you're a Leicester supporter living in Norwich? But, listen, take into consideration all aspects of what's been going on. And the run, people get a little bit accustomed to things too quickly, don't they? I got the feeling that there was sort of stifled groans that were out there. At the end of the game, it was like they went to go and sort of semi-boo, and then thought, "Oh, hang on a minute, no, we can't do that because where we are, it would have just been ridiculous."
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was just not ignorance or arrogance. It was just sort of because they've been accustomed to seeing scintillating football and good results, etc.
But if you'd offered Leicester,
such a realism.
If you'd offered Leicester and the Leicester fans the fact that virtually at Christmas they would be 7 points ahead of Manchester City in that Premier League,
say no more.
You'd snap the hand off, wouldn't you?
Say no more. Yeah, people start the season. I don't think many people were genuinely thinking Leicester would be in serious contention of the Champions League positions, which they are. We're approaching halfway point of the season. Some people would say it's done and dusted because before today's game, I know it was 14 points difference with Man U. I would disagree with that. There's still a lot of work to be done. But it's a genuine perspective reality, isn't it? And no one would have really thought that was going to be the case. People talking about top 6, maybe. I don't think they even genuinely believe that, because the top 6 was the top 6. But Leicester have certainly in the first half of the season have smashed that, haven't they?
Yeah, you pulled out Wilfred Ndidi as your man of the match today.
Oh, I had a bit of a panic up, to be fair.
Put on the spot.
Seriously, off the cuff that was.
I thought, who's impressed? No, I'm particularly impressed from an attacking point of view. Jamie Vardy, as you mentioned, in general play, he hardly featured at all. But he had 3 opportunities of varying degrees, didn't he? He broke from the left, he had the one that hit the post, that Godfrey hurt himself, didn't he? The overhead kick or hooked over his shoulder, and one little snapshot from across. But I thought he didn't contribute enough generally, or didn't get involved enough because he wasn't found regularly enough. I don't know, who do you reckon, Cup?
I think you got it right.
Not far off, Mark.
You should have done what Tags does and normally just give it to Johnny Evans or Pereira, really.
Yeah, well, I couldn't give it so unto today. Even Johnny wasn't his commanding best. Ricardo wasn't up to his usual.
No, I think you got it right.
Yeah, it's generally just solid enough.
I thought Chilwell didn't do bad today.
Yeah, done okay.
But yeah, I think Ndidi was as good as anybody.
Thank the Lord, I got your backing as well.
In the end, it was a difficult game for Ricardo and for Chilwell as well. Much down to the way Norwich played, really. Cantwell did as good a job on Ricardo as anyone has this season.
Yeah, and you've got a player there, haven't you? Because I've only seen flashes of him, and he's someone you pick out, for his attacking, but he catches the eye anyway, doesn't he? With his blonde locks and just the way he plays, and he's an attractive player to watch. But and you think about maybe he's just a bit of a glory boy and does all the pretty stuff and not the stuff that really matters. But proved that to be wrong today, didn't they?
Yeah, we talked about the substitutions. Obviously, the half-time was Barnes coming on. We haven't really spoken about Dennis Pratt withdrawing from the game at that point. It was a tough game for Pratt first half, for him to really make a mark on it, wasn't it?
It was, but it wasn't alone there. I mean, I think Pratt's the sort of player who gets things ticking, keeps it going, moving around, and you needed those players to try and make something happen, and he wants to try and get in little pockets, and you can see a pass and all that, and I think Norwich stifled him, and and Cantwell and the like just sort of like steamrolled Leicester at times, with their pace going, hitting Leicester on the break. It was quite impressive, but it happens, He's still a fantastic player. Still had a great season. It's just on this occasion, I make Brendan Rodgers right. It wasn't quite happening. He wasn't really at the races today, and so he paid the price. But that's the standard that Leicester have set. If you're under the weather, you're not playing that well. Doesn't matter who you are. You're coming off. If you've got to, the bar has been raised. You've got to keep bringing it every week.
Let's head down to the tunnel at King Power Stadium. Dan Bates is talking to James Maddison.
James, a slightly disappointing afternoon. Just couldn't quite get the winning goal in that second half.
Yeah, just wouldn't drop for us off out. Piled a lot of pressure on, had a lot of set pieces, a lot of shots, block shots and stuff. It was one of those days we've been on an unbelievable run, and sometimes it does have to come to an end in cases, and today it has. But Norwich are a good side. They created some possession, was fairly even. They've got some good players going forward, especially Pukki, who's dangerous at the top end of the pitch. So it was important to not lose the game today, especially with going behind. So we showed character to come back in the game, but like I said, just wouldn't drop for us.
It's a team and a club, obviously, you know very well, so I suppose it didn't really come as a surprise to you, the quality that they did show going forward. Yeah,
listen, we knew that as well, not just me, the whole team, because we did our preparation all week on Norwich and their strengths and stuff, and got good players going forward, wide men who get in the pockets and stuff, and of course there's problems at times. But likewise, we caused them problems. I think, like I said, we piled on the pressure. I think there was one team that was going to go and win it, because the majority of that second half was in Norwich's half. But listen, they're down there, they're fighting for their life, fighting for every point, and throwing their bodies on the line. Sometimes that's difficult to break down, but we'll take the point and we'll move on, yeah.
You spoke about the winning run there. During that winning run, there was a lot of patience shown in games, and yet again, there was patience shown today. Just unlike those other games, just couldn't quite get that breakthrough again.
Yeah, that's it. It's important that the supporters stay with us and be patient, because if you look at the league table, we're second in the league. I think, I don't know the results that happened today or whatever, but so teams are going to come and they're going to sit back because they see us as the top team now. So they've got to be patient, because it's not just going to we're not just going to be able to counter-attack on teams, because teams sit in against us, especially when they come to the King Power, because of the results that we've got so far this season. So it's going to take patience, it's going to take moving the ball, and it might drop for us in the 85th minute and win 1-0 some games. But yeah, that's all we ask for is patience, and we'll keep doing the messages that the manager tells us. Yeah.
Another goal created from one of your set pieces there. On a personal note, you'd be happy with that?
Yeah, always happy. I mean, I've got the responsibility of set pieces, and I've practiced an awful lot on them. So certain areas that I try and hit, and that was one of them. And Bard's knows sometimes try and hit that front area, and he just gets in front of that first man and gets the flick on, and we practiced that, and it was nice to see it come off today. Went down as an own goal, they did it. Yeah, so, but it's one of them things.
James Maddison talking to LCFC Radio's Dan Bates. Tom says nothing worked today, just wasn't our day. Kind of reflected in what James Maddison was saying there as well, with just saying it just wasn't going, things weren't dropping. But also really interesting to mention the way other teams are now viewing Leicester City, and they're starting to feel that people are giving them a bit of different treatment. That's another thing, a challenge to really take on, isn't it?
I think it's a massive compliment to Leicester, and I think he's spot on. You know, you look at Norwich, they filled up their full quota, their away fans, you could tell they were excited to be there. You know, Leicester City is one of the hottest tickets in town right now. And so it showed. I mean, it's funny that they're just starting to realise now that Jamie Vardy's goal was an OG. Imagine when someone tells him that, after the game, that it's actually not. He hasn't kept the run going, it's an own goal. He is not going to be happy, let's be honest.
Yeah, we actually had a message from Yvonne saying, how many times do keepers have the last touch of the ball, but it's not classed as an OG? Well, the problem was that the header was going wide, Yvonne, so Tim Krul made it happen.
It's close though, isn't it? I think it's a bit harsh. But
It was going wide though, wasn't it?
No, but only just.
It's like, oh.
I know, I wouldn't be happy with myself, especially if it was on that run.
I bet he tries to claim it. Appeal this. Can you appeal it?
Yeah, so he'll be ringing somebody up.
What is it like when you're on a winning run, Matt, and then it...
I can't remember that.
I can't remember that.
What, 2 on the bounce, you mean? Does that count?
Exactly. When teams just start to play against you a bit differently because they're starting to work you out a bit, maybe.
I don't think we ever experienced that, did we? I think... you were happy, as were Leicester not long ago, to get back-to-back victories, never mind get on a winning run. I don't think we were ever at that level where we got upstairs with Leicester.
I mean, 8 and 9 on the spin, I mean, that's...
I don't remember, but yeah, as Leicester was we weren't at that elite level where teams would come back. Some teams would sit off, obviously, the likes of... I don't know, maybe Southampton, Coventry, maybe, but even they came at us as well. So the answer is, I don't really know.
Let's flip it around then. Let's go.
I can imagine.
What's it like because you're obviously thinking going to other teams, right? We need to set up differently, and people will do different homework.
A lot of the time, in my times at Leicester, anyway. We used to set up with a back 3, which soon became a back 5. Steve being part of it, begrudgingly, because he turned from a left winger into a left wing back into an out-and-out full-back in the space of about 90 minutes. And you sit back, you play to your strengths a little bit, didn't you? We had that solid sort of base in defence and solid base. We had hard-working midfielders who could play a bit as well, and we had Heskey as our outlet. So it was like that, really. But we didn't progress to the level that these boys are, really, because we were never afforded the respect of someone sitting off and waiting for us to attack and break them down.
It was the days of the Football League Cup, wasn't it? Going down to Wembley.
Well, to be fair, yeah. But to be fair, teams wouldn't have wanted to do that against us because we had the last thing they wanted to do was invite crosses into the box because we had a sizable team and any set pieces, etc. That if you're sitting back and just letting teams say you are going to give away the odd free kick, etc., and they didn't want to do that, so that they decided to attack us, and more often than not, it probably worked for them.
Yeah,
sorry,
go on, mate.
I think it is more of a modern day thing where most teams now, away from home, play one up front. Even at home, they play one up front. The only thing I experienced in that when I was at Celtic all them years ago, they're just every team you play against.
Well, you would know differently there. We did that.
Everyone just sat. I mean, I remember being 4-0 up, and the opposition. I can't remember were time wasting. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it was surreal, but yeah.
Mind you, see, in that instance, I think sometimes you need. Sorry, Cup.
No,
sometimes And I said it about Man City, say, for instance, and I know it's a bit of an extreme example. They're still a top-class team. But maybe Leicester needed an extra dimension there, for the balls in the box. Maybe, a bit of physical presence. Vardy, as robust as he is, struggles to get on the end, of certain types of crosses. If his movement's good like it was today and poor defending. But, if you're up against... big, strong, physical centre-halves, 2 of them, sometimes 3. Sometimes people helping out as well, defensively. It can become an issue. So maybe there's that option to maybe consider.
It's funny that I was thinking exactly that in the second half, because as the crosses came in, it didn't really look like we were ever going to get on the end of it.
No.
It just wasn't happening. You're thinking...
I don't think Leicester do that often, really. They always have to try and create and manipulate a situation, don't they, rather than just put it in an area.
You can't lump it into the...
Yeah.
And you just think that maybe there's someone on the bench you could bring in, change it. Sometimes you can play little tippy-tappy football and win the game. Leicester have proven that. But sometimes it just doesn't work. And then you can just maybe go... a little bit different. Do you know what? We're going to change shape. We're going to do this, but actually, no. We're going to put a big lump up front, and for the last 5-6 minutes, we're going to try and win the game a different way. It is allowed,
or even earlier,
and it's actually it does pick up points from time to time. So maybe Matt's right. Maybe someone to think about in the transfer window.
Well, the thing as well with Vardy, I mean, he is Leicester's target man, but the last thing Vardy wants is a ball in the air. He wants it on the deck.
Well,
into
he can
space.
get across defenders, etc.
For a ball coming in head on. I mean, he's not. I mean, he jumps quite well. He's got a good leap, the one today. He's a bit unlucky to have that scrubbed out, but he got a good header on it on the near post.
Movement, etc. And poor defending, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
he out-jumped Ben Mee not so long ago, didn't he? He's capable. Don't get me wrong, but. It's not his strength.
He's not a
just something to consider, that's all.
It's not an Emile Heskey target man in that respect where you're picking out a big man down the middle.
Yeah.
He's one that, goes into space and wants the ball into space.
You're listening to LCFC Radio. It's finished Leicester City 1, Norwich City 1 at King Power Stadium. But what else happened across the country?
This is the classified football results check for Saturday the 14th of December. Starting with the Premier League. Burnley 1, Newcastle United 0, Chelsea 0, Bournemouth 1, Leicester City 1, Norwich City 1, Liverpool 2, Watford 0, Sheffield United 2, Aston Villa 0. Southampton versus West Ham United is a 5:30 kick-off. Sky Bet Championship, Barnsley 5, Queen's Park Rangers 3, Birmingham City 2, West Bromwich Albion 3, Brentford 1, Fulham 0. Bristol City 0, Blackburn Rovers 2, Derby County 0, Millwall 1, Leeds United 3, Cardiff City 3, Nottingham Forest 0, Sheffield Wednesday 4, Preston North End 2, Luton Town 1, Stoke City 0, Reading 0, Swansea City 3, Middlesbrough 1, Wigan Athletic 1, Huddersfield Town 1, League 1, AFC Wimbledon 2, Doncaster Rovers 1, Accrington Stanley 4, Portsmouth 1, Fleetwood Town 1, Gillingham 1, Ipswich Town 1, Bristol Rovers 2, Lincoln City 1, Tranmere Rovers 0, Milton Keynes Dons 1, Oxford United 0, Peterborough United 1, Bolton Wanderers 0, Shrewsbury Town 2, Coventry City 1, Southend United 2, Rotherham United 2, Sunderland 1, Blackpool 1, Wycombe Wanderers 2, Burton Albion 0. League 2, Carlisle United 0, Grimsby Town 0, Cheltenham Town 1, Cambridge United 1, Crawley Town 0, Port Vale 0, Crewe Alexandra 1, Mansfield Town 1, Leyton Orient 0, Bradford City 0, Newport County 1, Stevenage 1, Northampton Town 1, Forest Green Rovers 0, Plymouth Argyle 3, Morecambe 0, Salford City 0, Exeter City 1, Scunthorpe United 2, Colchester United 2, Swindon Town 2, Oldham Athletic 0, Walsall 1, Macclesfield Town 1.
It's a warm welcome to King Power Stadium on a bitterly cold December afternoon in Leicestershire. Second top takes on second bottom in the Premier League in front of another sellout crowd here at King Power Stadium as the Foxes take on the Canaries. Cantwell showing off his skills and carrying the ball into the Leicester half before Ndidi comes to take it from him and starts off another Leicester attack. Ricardo, great football work from him as well. Maddison, space just inside the Norwich half, moved on to Tielemans, who comes down the inside left position, checks onto his right foot and shot, and Krul lost it for a moment. It bounced off the post and tamely rolled back into his arms. Brilliant football from Leicester. It nearly broke the deadlock. Tielemans, who's not scored in his last 6 games, taking strike from outside of the area. Clean busting a gut to join him on this near side. Good skill, and it's back to Aarons again inside the 18-yard area, across the face of goal, and somehow Pukki from close range couldn't get the required contact, and it's drifted wide of the post. But Norwich should be in front, and that was a gilt-edged opportunity. Sends his clearance to the far side, drops on the halfway line, comes off the chest of Johnny Evans. Falls into Norwich possession. This is Buendia, who has time and space, and he's picked out the pass to Pukki, who's in on goal and has given Norwich the lead. A very cool finish into the bottom corner after the playmaker Buendia was given the time and space to pick out Norwich's leading goal scorer. That's his 9th of the season, his 3rd in his last 4 games. The Canaries are celebrated in the away section. Maddison receiving a warm welcome from the fans that he used to play for us. It's an out-swinging corner of Vardy at the near post. Keeps his goal-scoring run rolling, and more importantly finds an equaliser for Leicester City. Maddison with a delightfully floated corner, drifted into the near post area. Vardy making his way to the near post, and a glancing header beyond Tim Krul. Maddison, lovely ball over the top. Great take by Vardy. He's round Krul. He's on the outside of the 18-yard area. And it's a goal kick as it rolls into the side netting. Vardy has kicked away one of the television microphones. Godfrey collided with the post as he made sure that one didn't sneak in. Maddison will take the corner. An out swinger from the right. Evans hands on hips, ready to make his move. Soyuncu just behind him. Maddison's delivery to the far post. Chilwell was up there, nearly fell for Chilwell again. He's gone down holding his ankle. Play continues. Vardy back to goal. Turned and swiveled and hooked a ball goalwards, but Krul got a touch right on the post. I don't think it would have crept in. Krul touching it away for another corner. It's Maddison, corner of the box, laid off to Chilwell. It's a better cross. Godfrey almost scored an own goal. Stuck out a boot. It could have gone anywhere. He took the sting out of the ball. It just bounced towards the goal line, and he reacted quickly enough to whack it away before it went over the line. But it is a Leicester corner. Maddison, is this the moment? It's clear. It's Barnes through a crowd of players, everyone raising their arms, trying not to get a touch, and it's out for a goal kick.
Your place for all the big moments. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
Leicester City 1, Norwich City 1 at King Power Stadium this afternoon. Of course, Leicester stay second in the Premier League with that point. People disappointed around Leicester, and it just shows just how far this team have come and what a season they've had so far. But unbeaten is still the word, because that could be important in terms of mental attitude going forward.
I don't think the game would live long in the memory, will it? But who knows? That point could be priceless come the end of the season. You know, it could be the point that takes Leicester to Champions League or whatever, really. Who knows? But so, yeah, listen, didn't lose, managed to grind out a draw and a little bit under par performance. Let's all get over it and get ready for the next game, because they come thick and fast this time of year.
Yeah, of course, we'll talk about some of those games, some big ones on the way. Let's talk about the last few, though. Villa, Norwich, Watford, they're the bottom 3 in the Premier League now. Do you see a way out for any of them on the viewings that you've seen, Matt?
Yeah, I do. Definitely Norwich. I probably would have said otherwise before today. In fact, I think I did before the game. But that performance from them, that must give them great resolve for the future, because, I mean, they weren't hanging in there, were they? They weren't just battling away. They showed some nice, sharp football as well. They've got that goal threat with Pukki, etc. And defensively, they look to have got things together because, as James Maddison mentioned there, they were fighting for their lives. They were throwing their bodies on the line, etc. But it wasn't all, desperate lunges and last gasp challenges, was it? I thought they were quite impressive really today. But Watford, Watford. You see, I saw large clips of the highlights of the game against Liverpool today. They were in the game right up to the death and
had some big chances. Had
some massive chances. Yeah, some horrendous finishing, which ultimately might prove to be their downfall. They struggle with the goals, don't they? But too reliant on Deeney maybe. But they're a big, strong, powerful, athletic team. Did okay against Leicester, didn't they? So they've got cause for hope as well. Villa out the three. To me, I think they'll struggle. I think centre forward gets isolated. Yeah, defensively, all at sea really, and not too much in between. I think that over the course of the season they'll struggle. Norwich probably ultimately will, although on today's performance they've got great cause for hope at least.
Yeah, Nev, Daniel Farke all season has said, I won't change how we play. We're going to play this way because this is what we do. And fair play to them for that. Obviously, there have been times this season we said, well, surely he's got to change it because they keep losing. But today, they're actually a pleasure to watch at times.
Yeah, I think they play some very good football. They break quickly.
I didn't think they overplayed or anything, did you?
No.
They got balance right, didn't they?
Yeah. And then, they looked impressive at times. They've got good fullbacks. They've got pace where they need it. And they're well organised. They keep a nice shape. I think Leicester struggled a bit today to break them down. And it was a decent result at the end of it all. For Leicester, they've kept the unbeaten run going. But Norwich could easily have pinched a win today. I mean, you could say the same for Leicester. It could have gone either way. So I suppose a result, a draw is the right result. But, Norwich, you sat there watching Norwich today and it was difficult to believe that they are in the bottom three. I looked at them and thinking, well, why are they in the bottom three? Because they played, for me, I thought they played some very, very good football. So there's got to be a reason why they're in the bottom three, and I presume it is that they have just leaked too many goals, during the course of the season. And if the manager is committed to playing this style of football, good on him. The fans will enjoy it. But if it ends up with them being relegated, then he'll carry the can for it. But the football they're playing, they deserve to be out of the bottom three.
Well, we're at that halfway point in the December fixtures now. Obviously, we had Everton, Watford, Villa, and today Norwich, and they're all games you'd expect Leicester probably to take something from, which they've done. And now we look at Everton, of course, in the Cup on Wednesday, quarter-final. Then it's Manchester City, Liverpool and West Ham. What happens next in this Leicester story, Steve Guppy?
Well, that's the Premiership for you, If you don't get the result that maybe you think that the banker at home against bottom of the table, near the bottom, then the next week you have to go and try and rectify that at places like Man City. But that's the Premiership, and that's why it's such a great achievement today that Leicester are second in it, because it's possibly the toughest league in the world. Because maybe there's better quality in with Barcelona and Real Madrid and things like that. Maybe, just maybe. The teams around, it's quite closely matched in the Premiership. There's no easy games. Norwich have shown that today. Home and away each week, you have to be right up for it to get a result out. And these games now, it's funny that obviously today Norwich sat in and caused Leicester problems. When they're Man City and Liverpool, those games probably won't be like that. It might actually suit Leicester, a bit more, open there. Obviously the opposition will be thinking they're going to be able to hurt Leicester and get after them. Leicester may be able to revert back to that little bit, hitting teams on the break. It might well suit them, but if nothing else, it's certainly interesting. And Leicester have made it incredibly interesting for the way they played to date.
Well, next up is obviously Everton, Wednesday night in the League Cup quarter-final. Matt, what happens here in terms of which Leicester side go there?
Any Leicester team at this moment in time is a strong team. You know, the squad is that good. I think there will be a few changes. I think he'll go back to probably the teams, something similar to what he's put out before. But they've shown to be more than capable already, haven't they? Everton got a tough game tomorrow against Man United. I think Everton will play probably a higher ratio of players tomorrow and also on Wednesday than Leicester will today and Wednesday, if you get my drift. Yeah. Because it's even bigger. Don't get me wrong; it's huge for Leicester, to be in that far down in any cup competition. But I think Duncan Ferguson, who I'm guessing will still be the manager, then he'll be up and ready for it, and he'll get the players in a similar frame of mind, and I think he'll be going all guns blazing. I would imagine. Leicester have got to sort of manage it a little bit, haven't they? They've got that game Wednesday. Man City will have one too. We know their squad can cope with a heavy fixture schedule, but and then obviously the game on Sunday, which thankfully it is Sunday. Man City away, isn't it? Oh no,
Saturday night.
Oh, it's 5:30 on Saturday.
5
Sorry, yeah. Oh, we've got an extra 2.5 hours, then they'll be all right. But yeah, no, it's they are, as Steve said, they're coming thick and fast. But that's going to happen. The squad's going to have to be utilised. But listen, tough challenge, isn't it? Tough challenge. Quarter-final against Everton, but one that you got to relish, isn't it? Quarter-finals don't come round too often, and don't let it pass you by, as we managed to do in the FA Cup against Wickham.
Oh, don't remind me of that. I actually think
you had better times than that. You don't need to bring that one out.
Yeah,
exactly. But
it's a massive game, I think, Everton there, because imagine Leicester could get into a semi-final. It's a really tough one because Duncan Ferguson's probably going to be his last game as manager, so he's not going to be worried about resting players, is he?
No, I don't see that.
He's going full blast. If he can hand the reins over to someone and go, by the way, I've just got you into the semi-finals of this cup, it'd be a real shot in the arm for everyone at Leicester because the season's been going so well. We want something to show for it at the end of it, and getting into a semi-final. It would just, Man City, Liverpool, them games take care of themselves. Everyone would be revved up for that, no worries. But this game, away to Everton, quarter-final, it's coming off the back of a bit of a damp squid performance. This game Wednesday will really show what Leicester are about. If they can go and grind out a win there, that would be truly amazing, I think.
There'll be some learnings probably from years gone by as well. Of course, Leicester have gone out of the Cup at this stage the last 2 years, to Man City both times. But last year, maybe a few too many changes were criticised.
Yeah, I mean, the League Cup's been very friendly to Leicester over the years. Matt and Steve know that. I mean, they go playing the League Cup finals down at Wembley, and the fans thoroughly enjoyed it. This season is slightly different because you've got to feel that at the back of, say, Rodgers' mind, and the players as well, because of where they are now in the table, Champions League football for next season, for me, I would think, is the priority. Now, it's difficult to prioritise every competition. So where does the League Cup, as it were, stand in Leicester's order of priorities? So I think there'll be quite a few changes for the Everton game because the Manchester City game follows fairly quickly afterwards. I know it's, as Matt said, 2.5 hours later, but it's if you have it's on Wednesday, isn't it, the League Cup game? So you're talking, there's only 2 days, in between before you're going to play Manchester City, and I honestly cannot see Brendan Rodgers wanting to risk too many of the side he'll want to put out against Manchester City. There's no way he's going to weaken his team to play at Manchester City. So he's got to come up with a way where he can use his squad, which he wants to do, protect some of the key players, and still have a chance of winning at Everton. But I don't think winning at Everton. I mean, they want to, but I don't think it's the priority. I think the priority comes now in league games because of the possibility of being in the Champions League next season.
Yeah, some big fixtures ahead for Leicester City. Another big fixture Saturday, February the 29th, Nashville against Atlanta. First game in the MLS, and Steve Guppy will be there as coach. He's leaving us to head stateside.
When's that?
Saturday, February 29th.
Oh, not till Feb, so you've got a bit of time.
A couple of months to enjoy it before the hard work begins.
How are you feeling about going over, Steve?
You've got a bit of time to demoralise them before the start of the
season. Thanks, man.
It's my wedding anniversary, February the 29th, by the way.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, so you won't be able to forget now, Gus.
I'm coming over to Nashville to see you.
Oh, I think I'm busy that day then. But, no, of course, really looking forward to it. Obviously apprehensive about everything, you're taking the family, moving them abroad, and although we've done it before, the kids are going into a new school. It was a big decision, but it's, be an assistant manager, a new MLS team, and a chance to really, enjoy the coaching and a new franchise going into the MLS. Won't be easy because, obviously a lot of teams there are established and they've got their team set, and we're having to build a brand new team. So there's plenty of challenges, but really, really looking forward to it, I have to say. So that first game against Atlanta, a bit of a local derby. So
or is it 4-hour drive
only
away?
4 hours. 4-hour drive.
Next door neighbours.
So they're a very good side, and they won it the year before, and they spent an absolute fortune, which we won't be doing. But it's something that you're really, really looking forward to.
What happens on another subject away from the football? You were saying there, Nev, anniversary on the 29th. Do you only celebrate once every 4 years or what?
I'm not letting you into the secret.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yes, it's leap year day. Yeah. I'm not going to go into all the reasons.
What happens if you're born on the 29th of Feb?
No, I was
married. If you were, how many birthdays do you have? You're eternally young.
Yeah, when you get to 4,
Nev would only be 60, wouldn't he?
Yes, if only.
Well, Steve, obviously we wish you all the very best of luck. I know it's a really tough question, but how does the MLS kind of differ from English league? So what level is it, if you can?
Yeah, questions that gets asked a lot. It's very. I think it's a different style of football. You look over there, you've got other things to take into account. A lot of heat. So maybe the real fast, aggressive style of English, football is not always the way because of the heat and then the way. There's a lot of influences from other leagues around, like the Mexican league. So you've got a lot of South American players. We're signing, a number of players from all around that area. So it is different. I think player for player, there's some quality players in the MLS, no doubt about it. But if they came up against an English side who are a little bit Route 1 and flying it in there, players piling in there, I think they'd struggle to deal with that, in all honesty. So good players, I've been there before. I'm very fortunate to work with Gary Smith before. He was going to be the head coach there at Colorado Rapids. And that was a really great experience. And am I allowed to mention that we actually won it? And that was actually a fabulous, feeling and everything that went with that in the few seasons we were there, as we took them over and they were bottom of the league and all those sort of things. You only tend to get jobs when obviously they're struggling. So that was a lovely experience, and we're hoping to try and recreate something like that at some point in the future.
Well, best of luck to you. Fee's also been in touch saying good luck, Steve Guppy. Thank you for all your work on LCFC Radio, and best of luck to Steve. And thanks to Matt, thanks to Nev as well, and thank you for listening to LCFC Radio's coverage of Leicester City 1, Norwich City 1. Of course, Extra Time is back on Monday, and then Wednesday it's that Cup quarter-final against Everton, and we'll be back with that. Me, Matt, Steve and Richard Stearman will be here for the pre-match pint. We will see you
We'll
then.
be back, but Will Taggart.
For more in-depth analysis, reaction and extended highlights, head to lcfc.com.